dedication to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sounds good. Sounds real good.
Okay, roll call on Nicholas Snappiker. Sherman's here. Amanda.
Here.
Jacqueline.
Here.
Shane.
Here.
Kathy.
Here.
And Joshua.
Here.
Do we have approval of minutes from the last meeting?
I will motion that we approve them as presented.
Yep.
I'll support that.
Third. Are there any special presentations?
There are none. Who was the motion on the minutes?
Kathy and
Kathy.
Jackie.
Thank you.
Are there any oral comments, communications?
None.
Any old business?
No.
Any new business? Unsolicited proposal, San Clemente Surf, Skate, Art, and Music Hall of Fame. A report by Director of Beaches, Parks, and Recreation, Samantha Wiley, concerning the installation of a surf, skate, and Art and Music Hall of Fame in San Clemente. Do we have staff comments on that?
Yes. So I'm here to give just a very brief oral report, and then we do have the applicant here, Mr. Rick Petrie, to give any clarifications or answer any questions that the committee might have. I think the proposal is included in your packet as attachment 1. What we're looking at here is a request to initiate a Hall of Fame, if you will, for surfers, skaters, artists, and musicians from San Clemente. And what we are looking from for the committee is feedback on the proposal as it relates to the location, the kind of the merit of what the applicant's looking to accomplish. The Beaches, Parks, and Recreation Commission is reviewing this as well, and then it will eventually go to the City Council for final approval. I think the staff report summarizes the intent of the program, as well as the attachment that's there included in your packet. The applicant is looking at a couple of different locations. The preference is for it to be located on the pier railings, where these honorees would be recognized with a plaque around the pier. The other option would be to consider Avenida Del Mar on the sidewalk, similar to what you would see kind of a Hollywood Walk of Fame, if you will, by replacing pavers and with plaques of some type or some kind of surfacing to acknowledge the honorees. So staff's looking for feedback on the proposal, the locations, and again, the applicant's here and can answer any questions if there are any. With that, I'm happy to take questions, or you can seek to speak with the applicant as well.
Other questions? Should we just go in?
Yeah, go ahead. Whatever you want to do.
Okay, I'll start. I noticed Damian Bronner, he's listed up in one of them. They do they currently have the board builders plaque, so already on in North Beach. What are your thoughts about kind of that area as a location? Because there's already kind of some surfing related stuff, and a lot of the shapers are already there.
For me, the visibility and what it brings to the town is the location.
Can you go
Yep. Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. There's just more visibility and traffic at the pier on Del Mar Street, and in the last meeting, there was a discussion about even on El Camino Real, just because of difficulties with doing it on Del Mar with people walking down the street. I don't know that once the pavers are done right and they're set level, that it'd be any problem on Del Mar Street. The concern with the pier was that they're gonna be redoing the top of the pier. I don't know when that's being done, but I'd imagine before the next 2 years. And would that enhance it or not? For me personally, for the city and what I think it brings to the city, I think it enhances it greatly. And it's just such a great avenue going down Del Mar and ending at the pier and having people walk up and down that. And I personally walk quite a bit, State Park, out the pier, back up Del Mar and back home. I live above Pedro's. And having that to look at when you're walking along and seeing that and recognizing the ambassadors from those 4 areas, I think would be awesome. And I think it'd be really good for the city too, bringing additional traffic to the city to see something like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So I was just kind of brainstorming locations.
Yeah, no,
It kind of sense.
and that's board builders, and that's the Surf Ghetto, as you know. And I think it's really important for what's happening down there for the board builders to be acknowledged in that area, because that is the heart and soul of it, and really internationally it is too, because people come from all around the globe that are shapers, and they end up going to that area to visit the different shapers down there. And so there's not a lot of space down there really for that once it keeps going and going and going over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, for putting those plaques down there to recognize those shapers and glassers and sanders and all the people that touch surfboards.
Yeah, so I would love to find a way to kind of connect the two, so someone can maybe do the walk from one and see kind of the board building side of it as well, because I think it's
The other thing we talked about and that could be unique and neat is doing surfing at T Street, doing skating at the skate park, doing music at Miramar Theater, and that's so close to the board builders, it creates a walking area there too. So there's definitely ideas that I think they could all work out. But the neat part is when you go to Hollywood and you see the Walk of Fame and you go to that area, it's all on the main strip there by the theater. I just like the idea of the Pier Del Mar because it is the heart of the town.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. I have a question. Oh, go right ahead. Okay. Have you guys considered like a physical location as opposed to the
Like a museum type thing.
yeah, more of like a
I haven't talked to anyone about that. I've thought about it. I think there's certain places that have museums for towns that it wouldn't be a museum, but it'd be a Hall of Fame location. I know there's a little bit of struggle with the surf heritage culture with that location.
The surf heritage is not going to be there anymore. It's going to be in Laguna, and we're going to have the Olympics in in a few years, and San Clemente's surfing heritage is going to be on full display for the whole world.
It's going to be awesome.
We want to get it exactly right, and this is the kind of thing that will bolster all that and give people, because people come from all over the world to see Christian Fletcher plaque or whatever, because it means so much to them through surfing.
And again, location to me, it's it's doing retail, location.
Yeah, totally.
Papa Pico's tough, I think, for surfing heritage. They haven't gotten the traffic there. I served on the board just for a minute right before COVID, and it seemed like it was a struggle, location-wise, to get a lot of people showing up there. That's where on Del Mar or on El Camino Real, something like that would be great, but then the cost of real estate is so high to do something like that. But
that's a good idea to have pavers or just some kind of footprint there.
I think it'd be neat to have a historical thing for this town that celebrates everything. I mean,
because in all of those different categories in surf, skate, art, and music, we've had people of note that are like
amazing. We have the #1 town in the world,
kind of
historically
changing
ever. I mean, it's crazy how many people go on the pro tour out of this town.
And it's the one thing that is brought up over and over again as San Clemente emerges. It goes to its identity as a surf town. So, I don't know if that was a question.
Good point.
Well, it was a question,
It was kind of a question,
the museum style or
Museum style,
location where it's all at
but
one
instead
place.
going for an on-site
Yeah.
thing. And I think the
There's
best idea
so
is-
much stuff that can be displayed in that sense too, which would be
To
pretty
me,
cool.
just to say it straight out, I think the best idea is to have the various plaques at the relevant spaces for those people. In other words, like the Hosoi one at the,
So where do we do art? That's the one that,
oh, where would you do art?
like I've talked to your brother about him doing an art school. It might be a pipe dream for himself, but it would be such a cool thing with all the art that's in this town. So that
Yeah, I
it
see
could
what
really
you're
play
saying,
out
like
some
where would
kind
you,
of art, I guess, but
maybe at the Casa Romantica. That's a beautiful art place.
well,
I was thinking the community center has the art
Bingo,
gallery.
there you go.
yeah.
It
I
has
was
an
gonna
art
say,
gallery.
yeah,
there
on
you
that
go.
point, I think this is a good phase. You kind of do the plaques and stuff first, and then
Yeah.
you can hopefully get
Exactly.
something brick and mortar once it kind of
Yeah.
gets underway. You know?
There's so much that can be done.
Yeah.
So when I read through it earlier today, I asked, my mind immediately went to, I've been to the Baseball Hall of Fame and the Football Hall of Fame, so there's stuff and photos and all of that that accompanies kind of the award itself. And I was wondering how much of a draw it would be to just come and look at plaques. Like, it's wonderful for the celebration of it, and when you induct the people, you've got some great marketing that you can do around those things. But beyond that, if I'm a visitor passing through San Clemente and I'm walking down the pier and I'm reading names without a lot of detail, I don't know how excited I would be about that, especially if I'm not a surfer. So I was wondering if there was a way to incorporate more.
I think what Josh has said, that'd be the way to do it, and you could get so much contributed by people if that was done, for sure.
Yeah. The beach trail is also a really interesting idea. You mentioned that. You mentioned that when you walk the beach trail,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of art at all on the beach trail,
Yeah.
obviously. And to do, there's companies in our own city here that all they do is signage, and doing signage that can be out in the elements, and to have that component of it, might be interesting as well.
There's enough there after time that could all be connected from Pico to T Street, no problem. And up to Mar. I mean, there's a lot of talent that's come out of this community.
Oh wait, and just to applaud you, number one, for just seeing all the bright spots that have come from this community, and how being able to celebrate it in a kind of collective, organized way could increase the sense of identity and pride, and and seeing the kind of relevance of art and surfing together. And I kind of shared the group's concerns of just the right material and the right location, so that it actually accomplishes the goal.
Yeah.
What I was worried about at first is I can just imagine a plaque on the railing at the pier, and then some guy cutting fish bait on it, or just something that actually undercuts kind of
That's an art in
the
itself.
honoring that you want, or the corroding of the brass over time because it's such a high weather element or something. So this idea of what is the right place and treatment for to truly celebrate everybody. Is interesting. And then to everyone's point, how do you carve around the Schaefer's Hall of Fame, and then the honorees at the Vista Hermosa Aquatic Center, and to not repeat things that exist and are celebrated elsewhere, but to create something that
There-
actually is a different.
I've gone up twice now to the pool to look through that, because I'll be honest, I haven't been there to see it, and both times I couldn't get in, so there was something on in both cases. To go through and look at it, I know Bill Stewart was inducted in one case from Surfside Things, because I used to work with Stewart years and years ago. But I think there could possibly be overlap, and I don't know that's a bad thing, because it's such a different thing that they're being acknowledged for as overall sports up there, and then the board builders is a different thing. Board building is such an art in itself. There's cases where people that are building boards are definitely going to be nominated at some point to be in the art side of things. But I just think that speaks to their character and what they do and how talented they are, versus a negative that it's here and there. But it wouldn't be that often, but it could happen where it's in both places, I think, in a positive way. But celebrating all of it together, that was the initial thought when bringing it together, because they are so connected, the music to surfing and skating and the art, and how it influences each other back and forth. So, I mean, you're a perfect example to speak to that with your family. Yeah, you over there with long hair.
Well, to tell you the truth, you know who I saw just last weekend was my buddy who is the guitar player and singer for Fu Manchu, one of the most all-time legendary rock bands on earth. They go all the way through Europe and everything. And Scott is the San Clemente guy, and that's like, that's a very real and contemporary, you know, example of what you're talking about, which is not only historically, and I think there's some symmetry in the Board Builders Hall of Fame and other surf or, you know, cultural related projects in San Clemente, because I think there's a certain amount of historic value. And then, not to get too off topic, but there's actually a national, like, landmark type of situation, which I think San Clemente might be, you know, qualifying for for several locations. One of them being the Board Builders area, and the other one being San Onofre. I don't know if anyone's ever thought of that before, but certainly I think that is like a major, that is definitely a huge affirmation of a place's identity and influence. And I think that it goes to what you're doing, and in the uniqueness of San Clemente embodying all of those different things, which kind of makes it that very interesting, and to the point of like people being unaware of like the plaques and stuff. It's more about recognizing that personality of that person, because the people that do know that person are going to basically be totally blown away. I think it's the coolest thing.
And conceptually, there's one small paragraph that tells their story very short, but for someone that doesn't know, but someone that does know,
but like the person from Japan
really
that comes
impactful.
to see the Christian Fletcher star and just loses his mind and takes a million selfies with it. That's like a real dynamic. That's a worldwide thing that actually adds a lot of good substance to the town. And with the Olympics coming in 2028 for surfing, we really don't have to sell anyone on the value of surfing in San
No,
Clemente.
it's just sharing the story.
Yeah, we just got to do it right. We got to reflect it correctly. So when the entire world looks at us in those short 4 years, they're going to see an accurate depiction of our true character.
There's, just as a side note, from my work at Casa Romanica, there is an app called the Bloomberg app, and it's actually a system that connects museums all around the world. And so if you ever come to Casa Romanica, you can see how it works. Basically, you scan a code, and it will bring up all the information about what you're looking at, and you can add videos to it and what have you. And it's free for nonprofits to use. So that might be something worth looking into at some point in time, because that would be a way to give extra information.
Oh, that's a great
Bloomberg
idea.
app?
So, yeah, BLOOMBERG, I believe.
Like one of those, what do they call them?
QR
code.
And it's an app that you download on your phone, and then, so when you tour Casa Romanica, you can, click on each one of those and hear more, and in some cases see a video. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do with it.
Yeah, that's super cool. I want to do that with my work too. It's a really great way of showing everything.
I'm wondering if there's also maybe a way to incorporate some of the businesses as well, because like Lost is based out of here, Rip Curl, some of those, as well as locations. And, I mean, I know a lot of these surfers that surf for a lot of these companies, so there's kind of an affiliation kind of to that stuff anyways, but,
I know they'd all support it.
Great.
I worked for both those companies actually in my career. And they're very proud of being here in San Clemente, so I don't think there's any question they support it. The benefit from it would absolutely happen just naturally as being part of the San Clemente side of things. So That, I know a lot about the Rip Curl business. I was there 11 years, so. That store right there is the #1 profitable store they have in the U.S., not necessarily internationally. The store in Australia and Torquillas, but that store kicks butt.
That's why I was almost thinking like a plaque there too, or just something to honor that kind of heritage, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of support that can be received through the surf community, through the surf companies, and how that's shared for this whole thing. I don't know yet, I haven't gotten that far, but I think it's a great idea to be able to figure that one out.
But you know what excuse me for interrupting, but you know what I just thought of, is that our buddies in Huntington have pretty much done a lot of this stuff already.
Yeah.
Like they have walks and museums and the whole deal, and it's a vital part of the whole city.
And Jack's has a store here, and I know those owners really well. They help feed us information of the do's and
That
don'ts
might be
for
a
sure.
good model to look at as everybody goes forward to see, like, and
And Hermosa has a really good one on the pier there too.
yeah, I think the pier, our original wooden San Quentin pier is just amazing.
Yeah.
Have you put any kind of a budget together yet?
No, haven't gotten that far. I've worked with Samantha on all the steps to go through on this, so the board is, there's been people talked to, but it's not a set board yet. Having someone that's really an expert in each area, because it's just like Josh says there, I didn't know that the guitarist from Fu Manchu was from San Quentin. No idea. I would have thought I knew that. So there's a lot of historical stuff that needs to be pulled out in each of the areas to recognize it. I know surfing really well from the 70s forward. I don't know surfing before that. I wasn't born. And, we don't have quite as rich of a history and cultures like Hermosa Beach did back in the 50s and 60s. Yet we have a great history and culture there that I need someone like Don Craig that's listed on there, which I worked with and know well. He's a person who lived through all that, would know that stuff, and give me details really quickly on who we need to recognize for that. And so it's crazy though, because surfing, it'll take 50 years to recognize all the people that have had a massive influence on the sport, on the industry, on the city, on the community, all of it. So there's a long time to go.
Element of it too. I think it's important to kind of incorporate that. Because those are the Miramar Theater has a history of live music there and stuff. Like I
Yes.
wonder if there's a
I watched it when I was a kid.
yeah. And so it's be interesting to see what happens with that property. But that will be kind of a
It definitely will be, yeah, exactly, yeah, for sure, that's,
Everyone's watching out.
yeah.
one thing that, goes to what you're saying about having kind of a group of category, but, several categories that reflect San Clemente. In the art category, you could have Ryan Johnson, who's one of the biggest directors in the world, and directed a Star Wars movie and directed all the Knives Out films, and is probably, if not, a group of 5 of the most influential young directors in the whole world. And he is a full-on San Clemente guy. His production company's name is T Street. And, there's a guy that would be a perfect person to bring into the whole situation.
Absolutely.
He's a genius.
Yeah.
The Poker Face show is super good too. I don't know if you watched that, but he's really smart and funny and amazing. And he owns those Knives Out movies outright. So he could fund everything, including the city.
Good person to talk to.
Really super great person to talk to.
I love the conversation of Josh, building on what you and Shane were saying. Part of what I wish for you is that you could have kind of a blank slate, right? It's one of the challenges I feel like of Del Mar or the piers. You're carving around all of the stuff, and it's already kind of crowded, and people feel a little possessive of their traditions there. And it'd be so cool if around the Miramar, or somewhere in a future version of North Beach that's really vibrant, there is a dedicated, terrace, walkway, the art alley that has a timeline in it, tracks art innovation alongside surfing innovation down a big long wall. Or anyway, I was just wondering, maybe Samantha, if you have any advice about because part of what I'm thinking is that if you could find you know, two sponsors that are leading the North Beach work or something. It might, like, how to get to the end goal a little more easily rather than like one thing here, one thing there, one thing there, where you have to do it all separately. So I'm just curious, I guess, Samantha, if you have any advice about like, if you wanted to talk to North Beach, because maybe it's a little bit more of an open canvas, like how one would go about that, or how we could help.
Well, I'm happy to make connections and draw people together. As I shared with Rick, this is not a priority at the staff level. We don't have the resources. The city doesn't have the time to commit to this kind of project. I think it's a great project, but it would need a very much standalone committee or board of directors that's really managing it. So from the city's perspective, we can look to provide the approvals necessary to operate within the public right-of-way, because that's really what Mr. Beatrice here tonight to talk about, is that he's looking to access the public right-of-way. Now, if this committee decided that we love this project and we want to jump on board and we think we should start a subcommittee so the city has some connection to the project, I do think it's in the purview of the committee to do that. If you wanted to help Rick through the process, I absolutely think that's within your jurisdiction to have that conversation outside of this in a subcommittee forum.
Great, that's a good idea. I don't think we would have known that we could have done that.
Just to clarify, Samantha, so that means like Miramar, the food hall, those are all private. Anything on that property is about you like liaising with them, and the city might be able to help with guidance on like the permitting process to the building. I mean, that's just in the normal due process. So it's just the beach club that's city owned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so a facility like the Miramar Theater, that, or even the casino, those are private property facilities. The applicant would need to negotiate directly with those property owners to determine what is realistic and feasible. But spaces like the sidewalk in El Camino Real, or the pier, or Del Mar, or the beach club, or the skate park, or the community center, those are all city-owned properties. And similarly, and because it was mentioned, the Shapers Walk of Fame or Hall of Fame in Los Molinos, that's also done through a permit by the city because that's in the right-of-way. But very attainable and something that can be accomplished.
So, with that said, should we form a subcommittee to become part of this? Does it sound like something?
I think we should, yeah.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to form a subcommittee to help to manage the San Clemente Surfscape and Music Walk of Fame.
I think it's sound.
What's that?
Surfskate sound in our.
Surfscape music, yeah.
Use that.
SSSA, I like that. Okay?
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. All opposed? Nay. Ayes have it.
Excellent.
Just to confirm, that was a motion by Paskowitz and a second by Shane.
Yep.
Krishna, thank you.
Just listen to this, sound like it.
Now, you'll want to form your subcommittee today, or do you want to do that in another meeting?
You know, because of the terms that's coming up, we might want to table this, like, if there's going to be members that's going to be here, we already set it up now, but we know that what's coming next month.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if there's members here that's going to probably continue that term, we may want to have them start the subcommittee now, and then that way, the next meeting, we pick it up and go from there.
Yeah, so you can start your subcommittee, and it can be 2 to 3 members. And then if a member is no longer on the committee come July 1st, that can just be replaced. That seat can be filled at that time.
Perfect.
So, I'll vote.
Okay.
I'll be Josh, number one.
Nominate Nicholas and Joshua.
Nicholas? Yeah, Nicholas and Josh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. All in favor?
Oh, who's the third?
Nicholas isn't here.
You have to have a third.
Third round for Nicholas.
Okay, I'm gonna nominate Shane.
We do that.
I'm nominate Shane. Those are the three. Josh,
Yeah.
Shane, and Nicholas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. So Josh, Shane, and Nicholas on the subject.
Perfect.
For the SSA.
You know, one more thing, I was thinking about the funding, I know the city may have challenges with it. What about, the organization approaching and applying for grants, you know? You can apply for grants for a program like this, because it would probably qualify for it on a large scale. And then you can get investors involved as well, because this is something that's really fantastic and really should have the type of funding to give it off the ground, because this is like bringing so many, you know, superstars and grassroots individual together to a higher platform.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was something
And
fantastic.
to hopefully move pretty quickly, because to get everything by the Olympics would be like
Yeah.
the ultimate
Oh, that would be
goal,
fantastic.
you know? So.
Yeah, definitely. I was hoping for this year, but
Yeah, yeah.
started the process.
They started, yeah.
But then she said the last meeting that needs to go through everyone is in August, so that kind of missed the summer months.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna be speeding through. If they get everything like first pass, that's gonna be like all hands on deck going.
Well, we got a little bit behind us with the Olympics that, so we should
Yeah, I think.
incentivize people.
I think the city
Something like
council actually will be really happy to think of all of the wonderful things that could be available to San Clemente through the Olympics and surfing
Yeah.
and the Heritage Center, San Clemente. I think those are all things that should be explored and, yeah, so, like, we can do that, like this committee can do that and offer ideas to them.
Agreed.
Any other questions?
No.
All right.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
That was exciting stuff. So,
I know, how's the city council chambers are amazing, huh?
it's a little nerve-wracking.
I'll
be honest.
That's what makes it rad.
Yeah. And then I see you sitting back there, I went,
I know, I gotta run it. Honestly, I gotta run it, but still.
and Samantha's been
I
fantastic.
know, Samantha's the best.
Yeah, thank you so
Making it
much.
chill. Not chill, but, yeah. I'll get those, well, you take
Yeah.
photos. Can I take photos in here? Is that legal?
Can't stop you.
Certain places you can. Blows me away
See,
when-
there were 400 people in the audience.
Yeah.
Riveting.
Just getting the three that I remember these names for. I got you.
I can send you their contacts too, Rick.
Thank you.
You bet.
Well, you're busy, so I don't want
I'm gonna do it right now.
to. Okay. All right.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
So no staff communications, right?
I can share, because it's been mentioned regarding the Olympics. Staff are working diligently on a couple of things regarding the Olympics and their arrival in 2028. You will also recall that 2028 is also the city's centennial, and I think that's also a very big moment for the city. The Olympics are wonderful, but we should celebrate 100 too. So I do expect that this committee will be involved in some element of planning. Staff have a number of things that we're going to be proposing and preparing ahead of that year, but those plans start now. So stay tuned for that. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now or at a later time, whatever works. But just want to make you aware it's on our radar.
Yeah.
We are working on it.
That's amazing.
Likewise, and
Both of
we're
those.
ready to help, and we're on standby for that for sure.
Yes, here to that.
Yeah.
And both of those events happening at the same time is just amazing.
It is.
I mean, they're going to say that. I mean, that's going to be like every time they go away from the. Oh, that's going to be sick. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Samantha.
Yes.
Thanks, Samantha. Item number 7. Item from the committee members. Recommending art exhibition display.
And that was, that's an old agenda, we covered that last
Yeah, we
week.
covered that.
Yeah, so, yeah, we're on that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, nothing to report on there.
Subcommittee concert series and events.
It's underway. Yeah, the summer concerts they released the schedule. So I'll go on that.
Subcommittee, amphitheater and performing arts facility.
We kind of put a bookmark in that just to
Yeah.
revisit at a later stage. And we have to pursue, I think, like more private kind of stuff with that. It's, there's not much for me to do.
I've been doing a lot of grant writing for the Cabrillo, and I can tell you that it's hard pressed for the arts right now.
Yeah.
Jackie, you've got the same
It's same,
experience.
yeah.
So,
Subcommittee, art on public property.
We have that proposal, or the previous draft of the city's policy kind of in place, and a couple of pending questions. And I think we're going to work in subcommittee with Samantha to try and get that approved and in the next agenda for your review. Is that right, Sam?
Yes.
and I have reached out to the Women's Club to find out how much money they're willing to give us. They are having an executive board meeting on June 3rd. She'll get back to me after the meeting. And I got no response after 2 emails to Katie Potts of the Historical Society. But they don't let money out too easily, so. And I had a question, was gonna bring them money, and she didn't respond to that either. I know you were gonna look into, or Samantha, were you going to look into doing a wrap instead of a paint?
Yeah, I just had responded to an email from Amanda. Yeah, we were talking for utility boxes to do a vinyl wrap instead of a paint application, hoping that it potentially could be a better long-term maintenance solution. And Dana Point does that quite frequently. They're also able to use photographs as well, so it kind of broadens their ability to do a call for art. So Dana Point didn't have any negative feedback on it. We do want to look at costs, but I think the subcommittee can look at that. And unless this whole entire committee has any issue, I think we would look to do the vinyl wrap as kind of an option, at least for one of the faces.
The dude who did the one in Dana Point, of all the different surfers, that they refused to put Herbie Fletcher on, that's my buddy,
Okay.
and he swears by that.
Okay.
He does that process, and like you say, it's digital.
Yeah.
So it's just the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And even with like paintings and other visual arts, that digital representation is still like,
Yes.
I would say, a higher quality.
Yeah.
And it's going to reflect better from the artist's work
It
rather
is.
than have them there.
Well,
Like, that's going to be way better. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Cool.
I agree. Herbert Rapp.
Yeah, that's good. The wrap's going to be sick.
No.
I think like before we finalize the kind of what the application looks like and like the cost to sponsor, we want to be able to talk to maybe a couple printing places who actually do the printing of those. And I found, I think it's like, I don't know, the city of Santa Barbara or somebody has actually the specs up that show like all the panels and you know what they would send to the printer. But if your buddy could put us in touch with the printer who prints those out, it would be great to just, we want to benchmark and know, oh, is that going to raise the price? Is it the same? Like,
Yeah,
so that-
I mean, he did the one in Dana Point
Great.
himself, and he's like a private artist. He's like a muralist.
Great.
So it's like a vacuum seal process. I haven't really gone up to it, like looked at the finish, but it's I don't think that I don't see.
They're everywhere in Dana Point now, so they've.
Oh, they are? They've adopted
so
that?
many, They figured out something
That's
that's
great.
working really efficiently.
So he must be doing that because he's really good at that.
Well, but he would probably know who he handed his art to.
No, that's what I'm saying. He does the whole process.
Oh, he does that.
Yeah.
Do you think he printed them all for all the different utility boxes? Because they're all like.
Well, it
different
makes sense if
artists.
he's working with the city of Dana Point, and then he's a very industrious dude.
Oh, okay, cool.
His name is Jun Joe or something like that, Korean dude. He's super cool.
Josh, if you happen to like want to be
100%,
text
yeah.
and ask if you wanted to chat with us.
Oh yeah. Oh, please, the guy's so like peppy and like pumped up, he'll blow your mind.
And then, Samantha, you have the inside the city office type contact person that we can ask. Okay, great. Yeah, my apologies. I was hoping to have that all like revised by this meeting or this crazy spring quarter. But the part of the goal we talked about with Samantha is that we really want to try to make sure that the announcement and like the opportunity to submit art is able to be included in one of the rec catalogs, so that it's like just so that more people see it. You know how some of the city notices people just miss them when they're only in messy times or whatever. So we're aiming for the fall catalog to include like the announcement of the program and the announcement of the application. And Samantha, will you remind me, is it like a July 15th deadline or something for that process?
Yes.
Something like that? Okay, great. Perfect.
That's probably better,
That's
because
perfect.
there's so much stuff
I feel
going
like
on
it's
this
just really
summer
time.
that I think fall's kind of gives a little more time.
And especially because we're going to kind of position, like, this is all for the lead up, the preparation, like, let's, I don't know, wrap our town in beauty for
Yeah.
the 100th or the Olympics, or, not those words, but the sentiment, the idea, A little spiff up.
I think everyone feels that. I actually lived in Salt Lake when they had the Olympic fever over there, and it was a complete shit show. I'm sorry, I said shit show, but it was a shit show. It was nuts. I mean, it was out of control. But the city used the Olympics to actually juice themselves to I think it's widely accepted, to kind of elevated the city. Yeah, it upgraded. And like, we don't need an upgrade or anything like that, but I'm just saying.
Sponsors maybe if we like talk about it with the audience. And,
Yeah, there's, like Samantha said, it's in the future, and I'm sure everybody's thinking about it, but I don't know if now's a good time to talk about it, but I had a concept about the city beautification thing, which I think goes with the electric box deal. Those industrial spots where they can be like adapted into public art. There's like a few on the beach trail, and there's some other spots. I think that it would be really cool to invite artists that have like some renown to participate in like a beautification thing. And
Do you have a list of like the, I mean, because I remember there's one by like Mariposa, like do you have a list of the spots? Because then what we could do is maybe
no, but that's exactly the next
find
phase.
through Public Works who owns each thing. And then,
I
yeah.
think, Samantha, I think you picked one out for me too. There was like on the, by T Street was the one you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just
Yes.
a few that are just like really, to tell you the truth, they're nuggets of, availability for something really, really cool. It's just a question of executing it and doing it in a way that serves the public and has everybody excited about that. But I'd like to bring that to attention at some point as well.
Why don't you let me know which locations you're thinking about?
Okay.
And then it could fall under art on public property, or it could be utility box art,
Yeah.
depends.
Yeah,
One of
just,
those?
I think that that would be a great way of, very, very cleanly adding some like amazing additions that will
Yeah.
hopefully get people excited and say, oh, wow, like, the potential of that is really lovely, and something that adds to, I mean, it's hard. San Quentin's so gorgeous. It's like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Put a bunch of weird stuff up? That was the other thing I was thinking of. Maybe there should be some parameters in which we say, no aliens, no Baphomets, no. I'm sure you couldn't sell that one anyway, but I'm just saying that maybe there could be kind of like, or a favorability index to where we say, well, we're prioritizing this iconic San Clemente image of the pier and the sunset and blah, blah, blah. And maybe that is a pathway
Yeah.
to more involvement. But just I would say getting artists and getting people in that line and kind of beginning that effort. I think if we could do it in a really mature and beautiful and aesthetic way, would be really, really rad. And I think everyone would love it. So I'll be happy to talk to you guys more about that. And I think we could. I'm doing it anyway. You know what I'm saying? So I'm doing my murals in town and trying to get approval for murals as an artist myself. So I'm doing it anyway. So I definitely should be able to figure it out and make it a easier, better process. Yeah.
you know, something along that, because you are artists, you do murals, and I'm just thinking to showcase the talents form, because I mean, the city has a website, or we could create our own website, and basically come in and document, capture you know, creating this wonderful art piece, you know, and do that with other artists too, because that's the way of getting the word out and showing the legacy and that talent in real time.
Yeah, I definitely think that, like, what you guys are doing with the social media thing with Mr. Delante, and that whole deal, it's fantastic. Like, I mean, that's got real, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Well shot.
It's very well done, and, I mean, those kinds of things are, I think, what we want to do with we want to foster more in the city and promote, right? Because, I mean, Rick Griffin, one of the most famous and influential rock poster artists, and is this mega San Clemente guy. And, you know, I mean, to have something that's like a city thing with a real beautiful Rick Griffin rap and like from the family and all, like, I mean, it's rad. It really has a lot of eminence and story and history behind it that adds a lot of substance to town. I think
Think
that
we can get him? I mean, that'd be great if we could get him as a.
well, I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, his daughter is my friend, and they support me as an artist. So that's all. Anytime I mention something like that, it's because those are people that I want to get involved. Like I'm just trying to not like sell anything, but just show like how broadly appealing some of these characters are and how they directly relate to San Clemente and kind of what our goal is here on the committee.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that, but I'm also kind of an idiot, so I don't know what I'm doing. So you guys help me to kind of funnel me into a good shape, and then maybe we can get something really good out of some of my nonsense.
Yeah, I think we just start with the locations, and I think we'll be excited. I know I've seen a few on the beach trail and stuff, or just better, I think, utility buildings, but, you know, so if we send those to Samantha, I think we can at least identify what the city owns, what is in.
Yeah, and there's already great Marlo Bartel's mosaic art on
Right,
all those
here,
Marlo
yeah.
Bartel's
Yeah.
pieces. That's a world famous artist. He's an amazing friend of mine, and we already have that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, Laguna, Huntington, everybody has that stuff, and like we have it too, but ours is better.
Yeah.
We just need to like have a little bit more faith in it.
Yeah.
Put a little bit more of our identity on it. But we don't want to because we're a conservative town with really conservative principles. So it's like no hippies allowed. But at the same time, now the hippies run the show, and it's going to be the Olympics. It's a very interesting time, I think.
I think as far as forming the committee, I think we should wait till we have our new board, our committee members. But it sounds like it should come under our art and public spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, better than public property, yeah.
Yeah, that's art and public spaces. That's it. I mean, that's a very complex subject right there.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot to do with that. Is there anything else?
That's a F.
Besides
The future agenda items.
okay.
Well, you know, there was that, from the last meeting I mentioned, that top 3 list, but I think we got enough direction, I think, from Samantha just to focus on the Olympic and the centennials. I think that's enough to just kind of point us in the right direction, I think, on, and just be available for support for them. I think that seems like the city's mostly important for that in terms of a priority.
I actually just remembered something that I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
I heard from a little friend of mine about a project that was based in San Clemente. It was like an art colony with like 10 airstreams, and all the airstreams have different artists in them, and they all do residencies, and then at every month they have, you know, an art show or whatever. And I thought that sounded super cool and like really, you know, cultural. And I was just thinking, how do we know as a committee, what are the kinds of ideas and new things that people are bringing to the city? Like how could we be more aware of interesting concepts like the art colony thing that would be in line with what our mandate is as art and culture committee? Like, do we have to just like talk to people, or like are there like the amphitheater, are there arts-based projects that we could maybe help with or try to manage more, or, you know, that's kind of what I was saying. And maybe that's more of a question for you, Samantha. It's like, how do we kind of help the city to, you know, invest in people, you know, identify the people that have the same kind of goals as we do, and try to help them.
That's a big question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to think how I can convert that into a future agenda item. Or if it
I
can,
will do that. I'll think that.
okay. Because I think it's a worthwhile conversation.
Yeah, because there might be really cool people that are trying to do cool stuff, and then maybe, you know, and for any number of reasons, maybe we don't help them. Maybe we say, hey, these guys, they're just,
Yeah.
you know, there's no cultural piece to it, or there's no added value from a cultural perspective to it, or an artistic perspective, or, you know, community added value perspective, or anything.
Yeah, you almost want to look at, you know, what are the community efforts, the grassroots efforts that we're not aware of, because we don't hear everything.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are the good efforts that we're not aware of that we can help? That was kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's a big question.
it's a big question.
I'll think more about
Okay.
refining that into something that's more actionable.
Okay.
Thank you.
You know, along that same question, like a springboard, sometimes in data gathering, because that's what we're talking about, is data gathering at this point to find out who's doing what in the city. What if they had to launch like a portion or part of the city's website where those that have these different programs and organizations that are grassroots can actually go there, and you create a database. They say, hey, listen, I have this thing going on, this is what we're doing, and you start building databases by allowing individuals to input that data into a website. Now you start to collect that data, and then you can filter through that to determine on what it is they're doing, and to see how we can make a decision on how we can support them, help them. But that would be a first thing, to gather that data. And I think that's what's really missing, because there's no place to go to gather that data. So if something was created where they could go and input it, then you can filter it down and determine on, you know, how it would work with the city and give it how we can highlight it. But
Right.
I think that would be a good way to start.
There is one on the county level called Spark OC.
Yeah, Sparkles, yeah.
But it's in need of a bit of a update
Right.
a little bit, but it's, for what you said, that's what the goal of it kind of is. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Beaches Parks and Recreation has like an account with that, Samantha. I just sort of, some city,
No.
not really, because I know there is a few San Clemente based companies, I think, like maybe the Playhouse, or something. I remember seeing a few.
Haas has been on there.
Yeah,
and
they're-
advertised, and they'll,
Yeah.
Spark OC is wonderful. I think they're still figuring out where South OC is.
Exactly. It's
We're-
very
We're
underrepresented.
just very
Yeah.
tip.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I know just for Casa Orgánica, we've had to put a lot of mindful effort into inviting folks from, you know, Irvine and Newport and what have you down to come to our museum and things like that. And it's gaining momentum, but it's not currently, I think,
I think with social media too, it's like I hate to say, young people are just, they're not gonna go to that website
Right.
to like look for events or something.
Well,
and
and
that's,
I
yeah.
feel kind of the same way
Yeah.
for city council. I mean, the minute you go .gov, it's like, whoa,
Yeah, they want something a
not
little
where I
more-
want to go.
And like to your point, Josh, I think a lot of the grassroots stuff, they kind of want to stay grassroots,
Yeah.
like a little bit on purpose.
Yeah.
But then, so it's a kind of, it's a fine line. I think,
And I guarantee
Yeah.
if you put on
yeah.
on the Friends of San Clemente Facebook page and just said, hey, just who's doing something cool in art out there?
Yeah.
You'll get a ton of information. I don't know how helpful that would be, but that's
Yeah.
probably a better venue for getting to what you're at as like a starting place
Yeah.
than to have people have to come and
No,
Yeah.
no, I don't think people are gonna wanna take an extra step
Yeah.
in all that kind of stuff.
but they might be excited about what they're doing.
But I think if there's somebody that, because most people are just opening restaurants, and this committee can
And coffee
affect
shops.
that too, like how you were saying, like
That's-
a new
and that's
business
culture, it's
has to
really-
have some kind of public art, or, I love that idea that you had.
We're writing that into
Yes,
our proposal.
that's exactly what I'm talking about, which is like maybe each one of us individually trying to identify certain things like that would be related to our job on the committee, you know what I mean? And finding ways that we could try to bring that stuff to the committee to try to make it work for what we're trying to do. And that's all. I just think that there could be some really exciting projects that we can identify and say, hey, these guys are like, they're doing art lessons, and they got kids, and they got the you know, all this added value to the community, and we say, well, that's something that, you know, we might want
Right.
to have just because of its merit. And
Just to highlight and support.
yeah, things
Get
that are
more
uniquely
Certain.
like that
some of
idea
these
that you had of
grassroots
the.
have more, help them get more eyes on what they're doing.
Yeah, it kind of like empowers and like aligns, you know, everybody's like interests, and I think it's really smart if we could just come up with concepts or individual cases like that, and we could.
I mean, back to the Mr. Delancey residency, like that's a different, you know, he's obviously not in an Airstream and he's not, you know, grassroots, but that's such a great example of like, one, it's both personal and inspirational, right? Because it's like his, you know, his story, his history in the town, following there, watching him paint, plus like the classes and the, you know, permanence of the installation at the casa and all that stuff together, so. Yeah, I can almost see like a next version of
Right.
someday being a different type of artist in residence, right? Who is
Oh, yeah.
like of that flavor or something a little bit different.
But
that's Casa, that's not
That's
city
perfect, exactly, that's
stuff. But
exactly.
it's a good like example.
And you know, the social media piece of it and all of the way that it's executed, I think is an example of like the kind of stuff that we want to be involved in, and just, you know, it's hard because we don't have like an outlet or whatever, like as the committee, but if we could just take like cases like that and then find a way to bolster them,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, then that would be really cool.
Casa doing a great job on social media. That's one of the things we found with our survey, right, was not that there's not things happening here, but just that people don't know about a lot of it, and it's really hard, it feels kind of like that's the.
Yeah.
Sherman, to your point, to like, it would be great to get this data, like, so, you know, it's a kind of it's an input thing, and we're not getting, you know, but, and I think they were attempting that with Spark OC, but it's just not, it has.
You need a like South OC
Exactly.
representative or
I think there's
ambassador program.
yeah, there's like a digital solve for this, but it's requires more. Yeah.
Horrible website, you can't. Thanks,
Yeah.
sir. Thanks.
Thank you guys.
So, on the other actions, I can make a motion that we adjourn.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. We are adjourned.
The gavel falls.
So we have a super quick question on scheduling.
Yeah.